everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Glad to be back.
Today, we're diving into a topic that feels like it's straight out of science fiction: deepfakes.
It's true, they can seem pretty futuristic.
We've got some fascinating Wikipedia articles lined up about deepfakes themselves, the world of generative AI,
Yeah.
and how all of this tech is impacting media and entertainment.
And, something that might surprise you is that deepfakes actually have a much longer history than most people realize.
Really?
Yeah.
I have to admit, I kind of assumed this whole deepfake thing was like a 21st century phenomenon.
It's easy to think that, right?
Right,
Because they've become so sophisticated and so quickly.
right.
But the groundwork was actually being laid way back in the 1990s. Researchers were already exploring some of the basic technology that would eventually lead to what we know as deepfakes today.
Wow, okay. So rewind with me to the days of dial-up internet and those, like, clunky computers. What were researchers working on back then that would eventually pave the way for something as advanced as deepfakes?
Well, there was this project called video rewrite,
Video rewrite.
and it caused a stir. Researchers figured out how to use machine learning
Okay.
to analyze footage of someone talking,
Uh-huh.
and then they could manipulate that footage
Wow.
to make the person seem to say something completely different.
So basically, they were putting words in people's mouths, but digitally.
Exactly. Video rewrite. The name sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But the technology behind it was incredibly complex for its time.
I bet. So how did they do it? What were they manipulating?
Well, they focused on the connection between sounds and face shapes. They figured out how to map those mouth movements to specific sounds,
Interesting.
and it let them tweak those movements to match the new audio.
That's incredible. It's amazing to think that even back then, researchers were already playing around with what would become the foundation of deepfakes.
Oh, absolutely. And while video rewrite might seem pretty basic compared to today's AI,
I'm sure.
it was a huge breakthrough.
Yeah.
And it really set the stage for the incredible and sometimes unsettling, I have to say, capabilities of deepfakes that we see today.
So we've gone from changing a few words in a video to the potential to create entirely synthetic realities.
It really is remarkable, isn't it?
What I find fascinating is how deepfakes have evolved beyond just faces.
It's true. Remember that fake dancing app that was super popular a few years ago?
Yeah.
Researchers at UC Berkeley developed it.
Oh.
And it could take anyone,
Right.
and make them look like a professional dancer, even if they had 2 left feet in real life.
Everyone was posting videos of themselves busting out these crazy dance moves.
It's pretty amazing to see.
I know, it's hilarious. But, also a little unnerving when you think about it.
I agree. And that's the thing. That app was a glimpse into how this technology could be used, not just on faces, but on entire bodies.
Right.
And suddenly the possibilities, and to be honest, the potential dangers became much bigger, much faster.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where things start to feel a lot less like a harmless app
Right.
and a lot more serious. Like, what about the implications for medical imagery?
Oh, you're right. That's where things get really interesting and concerning. Researchers have actually already shown that deepfakes can be used to manipulate things like CT scans.
No way.
Yes. They were able to make it look like there were signs of lung cancer when there weren't.
Oh my gosh.
And they could remove those signs when they were really there.
That is scary.
And what's even more concerning is that these manipulated images, they fooled trained radiologists.
Wow.
They even fooled the AI systems designed to catch these kinds of forgeries.
So even the experts, both human and machine, were taken in.
It's a big problem.
That is truly alarming. I mean, it makes you realize the stakes are incredibly high when we're talking about deepfakes.
They really are. And it really highlights how important critical thinking is and verifying your sources in a world where even medical imagery can be faked.
It's like we can't just take things at face value anymore.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to something as important as our health.
You got it.
And speaking of things that are more important than ever, I think it's time we talk about audio deepfakes. Because those are sending chills down my spine lately.
Yeah.
It's funny you should mention that because just the other day, I almost fell for one of those scam calls. The voice on the other end sounded exactly like my bank manager, even down to his, slight southern drawl. But something just felt off about the call. Thank goodness I didn't give them any information.
That's a perfect example of how convincing these audio deepfakes can be. And the thing is, they're not just being used for, prank calls anymore.
Right.
By 2020, the technology had advanced so much that cloning human voices, like with incredible accuracy. It was a reality.
Wow.
And all it took was 5 seconds of audio.
5 seconds.
Amazing.
Seriously.
Yep.
5 seconds.
I can't even, like, record a voice memo that short on my phone.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And what's even more unsettling is that people are using this technology for some really serious crimes.
Oh, I bet.
There was this case back in 2019. The CEO of a UK energy firm, this guy got tricked into transferring over $220,000.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the scammer used audio deepfake tech to impersonate the CEO's boss.
Wow. You know, it's one thing to, like, read about these cases online or whatever, but when it almost happens to you, like it almost did to me,
Yeah,
it really makes you realize how careful we need to be.
I hear that.
Do you have any advice for, like, our listeners on how to protect themselves? I mean, these scams are getting more and more sophisticated every day. It's more important than ever to really, like, be careful, especially when it comes to anything involving, you know, your money or your personal information.
Yeah.
Social engineering scams like the one you almost fell for. They're getting more sophisticated every day thanks to AI.
Right.
We all just have to be really cautious and double-check everything,
Yeah.
especially if you're not expecting to hear from them.
It's almost like saying trust but verify has taken on a whole new meaning these days.
It really has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And you know what? That actually brings us to an interesting point.
Okay.
We've been talking about scams and manipulation, and it can seem like deepfakes are, you know, this cybersecurity nightmare.
Right, for sure.
But they're not always bad.
That's true.
There's a lighter side to this technology too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I've seen some hilarious deepfakes out there. Just people having fun with the technology.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing how something can be used for, like, good or bad.
Exactly. It can be both. Remember that deepfake video of Simon Cowell singing on America's Got Talent?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was so unexpected.
That was so
It's
funny.
so well done.
And there was that time, I think it was Jimmy Fallon who was doing, like, a deepfake of, I can't remember. It might have been Donald Trump on his show. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Those comedic uses are a good reminder that deepfakes aren't good or evil. They're a tool.
Right.
And any tool can be used in different ways.
Exactly.
But you know what else?
What?
Those funny deepfakes, they illustrate something really interesting called blackmail inflation.
Blackmail inflation. Okay, now that's a new one on me. It sounds more like something you'd hear, like, talking about the economy.
I know.
Right, not deepfakes.
It's a little out there,
Yeah.
but stick with me.
Okay.
Because deepfakes make it so easy to fake a video, right?
Yeah.
It actually makes real blackmail material less powerful.
Really?
Yeah, because anyone can create something fake now.
That's true.
It makes it harder to believe something is real, even when it is.
So you're saying that even if you have, like, real evidence of something, because anyone can create a fake,
Right.
it makes it harder to prove that yours is actually real.
Exactly.
It's a fascinating twist.
It's one of those, it's an unintended consequence.
Yeah.
The very fact that deepfakes exist
Mm-hmm.
makes people question everything,
Right.
even things that are real.
It makes you wonder if this means we're heading toward a world where, like, everyone is just skeptical of everything,
Right.
even if it's real.
Yeah, could be.
How can you even know anymore?
That's the question, isn't it?
It really is.
It highlights how much this tech is changing things,
Yeah.
how we see the world, how we trust things.
Right.
But before we go too far down that road,
Yeah.
let's talk about what's next. Let's talk about the future of deepfakes.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Because as many problems as they create, there's also a lot of work being done to make things better.
Okay, good.
And that gives me hope, at least.
I'm glad to hear that. It can be easy to get overwhelmed by, like, all the what ifs. So what are some of the things that are being done to, address the dangers of deepfakes?
Well, one really promising area is deepfake detection technology.
Okay.
Researchers are working on some really sophisticated tools
Cool.
to try to spot the little things that give away a deepfake.
Oh, interesting. So it's like an arms race.
Kind of, yeah.
The people creating the deepfakes are trying to make them more realistic,
Right.
and then the detection tools are trying to keep up.
Exactly.
I like it. So how are they doing? I mean, are these tools actually working?
Yeah, they're getting better all the time.
Okay, good.
Researchers at USC, for example, they've already developed like 2 generations of these detectors.
2 generations. So are they, like, constantly updating these methods to stay ahead of the game?
Exactly. They have to, because
mean-
the tech is always evolving, right?
That's true. So what's so special about the second generation of detectors? How do they work?
Well, I won't get too technical.
Okay.
But basically, they train these detectors on tons and tons of videos,
Okay.
both real and fake ones.
Gotcha.
And over time, the detectors learn to pick up on these tiny little details.
What kind of details?
Things like inconsistencies in the lighting or the shadows,
Mm.
or even like the way someone's chest moves when they breathe.
Oh, wow. I would never notice that. That's wild.
Yeah, most people wouldn't. But AI, it can spot those things right away.
That's amazing. So these tools are like a safety net,
In a way, yeah,
especially as deepfakes get harder and harder for us regular folks to identify.
it's true.
But earlier you mentioned that, technology alone might not be enough.
Right.
You said something about like individual responsibility.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
did you mean by that?
I mean, even with the best detection tools in the world, we can't just rely on them completely, right?
Right.
It's up to all of us to be careful about the information we're consuming and sharing online.
So we still need that healthy skepticism.
Exactly.
Like we can't believe everything we see and hear.
It's all about finding that balance
Yeah,
between being cautious and being so cynical that you don't trust anything.
it's a tough balance.
It is, but it's so important.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive, I have to say. We've covered so much ground,
I know, right?
from the history of deep fakes to the tech behind them.
It's a lot to take in.
And we've talked about how they might impact our world.
It's been a great conversation.
It has. And I have to say, I feel like I've learned a ton. Thanks so much for walking us through all of this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating topic.
It really is. And if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from all of this, it's that as this technology continues to evolve, it's up to each of us to use it responsibly.
Couldn't agree more.
The future really is in our hands, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, thanks for joining us, everyone. And be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into the world of tech and culture.